Well, good morning. I haven't done one of these videos for a while, so I thought I would do it. You'll have to excuse the strange lighting, but I'm getting my fix of my sunlight. See, it's not really that big a deal. There it is. That's all you have to do in the winter to get your fix of sunlight, which I know that a lot of people have the same problem as I do, in that in the winter things become rather difficult. This isn't a cure-all, but it certainly makes me feel a lot better than a normal winter of lethargy and feeling sad and upset all the time. And it looks like someone's ringing John's mobile phone. Well, John isn't here to answer it. I don't know if you can hear that bloody noise. Typical. Well, it stopped now, that's good. Well, physically I'm still having a hard time, and not as bad as it was. This year has started off better, and it will get better, I know it will, just because I'm feeling much stronger now. I can't at the moment get rid of, well, I can never get rid of pain, it's that simple, but the particular pain that I've got usually doesn't quite last this long, and it's really irritating because no matter what position I put myself in, it hurts, and it doesn't really matter how much medication I take either. Anyhow, so last year turned out to be just incredibly stressful. I wasn't expecting it to be, and the thing that is very clear now to both John and I is that I had a bipolar episode, which just goes to show exactly how stressful it was. I remember thinking I was somewhat hyper. Well, back when the work started on the house, and John commented on it, but it wasn't commented on again. And anyway, it now appears that on my wedding day and at the reception I was somewhat high. I mean, friends who didn't know about the bipolar and haven't ever seen me like that said that I talked very rapidly and I jumped from one subject to another, and talked quite a lot, and I have absolutely no recollection of that at all. Fortunately, the people at the wedding thought it was funny, thought I was funny. But anyway, that of course did lead to a crash, which happened at the end of the year. The last few months of last year were just a complete blur. I find it alright to talk about now, but for quite some time, particularly when I was going through the down part of it, I just felt far too ashamed to tell anybody. I didn't even tell my doctor. And I didn't tell John, although I didn't need to tell John, of course, he knew. And particularly, for those of you not in England, you possibly won't know about this, but we had a well-loved entertainer called Jimmy Savile. Well-loved by the British public. I have to say that I never did feel that way. In fact, he always gave me the creeps. And anyway, it has since turned out that he was a paedophile, and that he'd been abusing young people all through his career, and basically he'd been allowed to get away with it. People covered it up, and that came during my down period, or it triggered my down period, or whatever, I don't know, but I'd really seriously started to go downhill, and I had a lot of flashbacks, and I started not being able to sleep, and I just ended up in a real mess until I had a real doozy of a panic attack. And that really brought me up short, because then I knew that I tried really hard to control that particular day. I'll remember that day very clearly. It's hard to describe what happens, but I really thought that I was losing it. Now, one of the things that I can now talk about, which I certainly wouldn't have spoken about before, was that for quite some time I'd been hearing voices. Now, when I say I've been hearing voices, I don't mean I heard a voice inside my head telling me to do wicked things, or even telling me to do good things like clean up. No, nothing like that. If I had a voice telling me in my head to clean up, I would tell them to fuck off, don't you dare. Don't nag at me, I've had enough of that. No, this was when I was trying to get to sleep at night, and I felt like I was trying to get to sleep in a very noisy pub, and it was really weird. I just couldn't get these bloody voices to shut up so that I could go to sleep. And then when I was asleep, the voices would wake me up. And I was convinced sometimes that John was talking to people in our bedroom. And I'd stand there and watch him, or open my eyes and watch him. And then I realised that he couldn't be, because he was asleep in the bed next to me. Anyway, I kept all this to myself because I thought I'm finally really cracking up, and that, you know, I've developed schizophrenia or something. And all the time I just felt incredible shame that how could this possibly happen to me after, you know, all that I've written on my blog and everything I say about how I deal with the bipolar disorder unmedicated and all that sort of thing, and how well I'd become and how well I'd recovered. So of course I put myself under a huge amount of stress. When I did eventually tell my doctor, because of course the day I crashed I had to tell my doctor, but I still didn't tell her about the voice hearing, and we did get a couple of things out the way, and she said to me that I must never ever fear telling her anything, because I can trust her. See, I didn't want to tell her anything because I really thought I'd get locked up again. See, all this was what happened to me in the 70s, and the Jimmy Savile thing was all in the 70s, and it all got very mixed up in my head. And that's what I was having flashbacks about, you know, being in locked wards and that sort of thing, and the abuse that happened, and the aversion therapy and all that sort of thing. Anyway, my doctor said to me, she really is lovely, I mean, she speaks to me like she's my friend, and she said to me that she would never ever do anything like that to me, and she would never even suggest anything without talking to me. And she said, and anyway, what you're describing is not mental illness, it's signs of severe stress. It happens to a lot of people, and the voice hearing that you're describing is a very well-known stress side effect. Oh, I was relieved. I really was. See, if I'd spoken, I was so frightened that I couldn't speak. But if I had, my fear would have been allayed, wouldn't it? But, as usual, I learned a lot. I learned that I guess that I thought 5 years ago, when I went through what I went through and I had my epiphany, that I really would never ever be affected by my past again. Well, that's turned out not to be true. I also now accept that last year was very stressful, and it wasn't just stressful for me, it was it would have been stressful for a lot of people. Everybody I know said that last year they would have found stressful. And of course, because of my disease, I suppose it's more stressful, because the symptoms get much stronger. Anyway, so I guess I'm still struggling with being kinder to myself and being more accepting of what I can and what I cannot do, and trying to learn when I need to stop and take care of me. I guess I haven't quite assimilated it all yet, and I'm still struggling to get myself back on track. I am sleeping well at the moment. I'm sleeping really heavily too, although at present I'm sleeping downstairs on the settee next to the litter of puppies because Mum's a bit dim and the puppies need rescuing. Only a couple of times a night, but they still need rescuing. Thank God we've got crush bars in this whelping box because they've certainly needed it. And so far the puppy's alright, but they need to get quite a bit bigger before they're going to be safe from clumsy mother. She is actually being a very good mum, but she doesn't seem to recognise when she's laying on puppies or when they're behind her instead of in front of her. But she has got 6 of them, and very interesting they are too. The colours of them, I've got a boy and a girl that are red, a black and white boy and a black girl, and another boy and girl that are both the same colour, which is fuck nose and white, meaning I'm not sure. I'm not even sure they're both the same colour. They're either brindle and whites or they're red and whites. I really don't know. I guess I would bet on grey and white, brindle and white, but one never knows. But isn't it neat that I've got 3 pairs in the same colourway? That's rather strange. I don't mind. Well, I guess I do. I would prefer that the show ones are the black one and the black and white one, but I will keep what I'm given. I suppose in the long run it doesn't really matter, but I don't want to lose my blacks, so I would appreciate a black one, because I like them. It's as simple as that. Anyhow, so yes, Colin is not back to his normal self, and actually I suppose I won't be back to my normal self. I will be becoming a new self again. Never ends. But I'm not where I've wished to be. I'm having a pretty awful physical struggle. Not so much a mental struggle now. My emotions and my mental state have really calmed down, and I feel like I'm ordinary there. Back to just being me. Do you know, it's so amazing how quickly or how subtly, that's what I mean, it was really my descent into nuttiness. No, not nuttiness. It's hard to describe, but when the stress got on top of me and, hearing those voices and not being able to sleep and really paranoid thinking, like my doctor would have me locked up in a loony bin if I said anything. And then my doctor lost a lot of weight, and she had time off, and I thought, oh fuck, my doctor's dying. Of course she isn't. She lost weight because she meant to, and she went bloody skiing. She went on holiday because she's a normal human being and she does things like that. But I just felt that I couldn't tell anybody. I just felt so ashamed, and I couldn't write about it on my blog, and I didn't let anybody know on Facebook. Although on Facebook people did realise that there was something not right with me, because I supposedly sent a Facebook status that was gobbledygook, and then people didn't hear much from me. Well, that was deliberate, they're not hearing much from me. I kept well away. You know, I just left the odd short thing. And damn shame. It always gets me. And I wonder if that'll ever be conquered. You know, but well, to be blunt, I've felt that, you know, people come and read my blog, and I know that a lot of other survivors read it, and, you know, they get sustenance from it, they get hope from it. And then, you know, I go through what I went through, and it just made me feel like such a fraud. But that isn't true. I mean, I got through this very much more quickly than I ever would have in the past. Yes, it was a complete shock. I wasn't expecting it, but I also didn't expect that last year would be that stressful. And see, that was one of the reasons I hid it all, because the house renovations were for me. And the wedding and the honeymoon and puppies, and that was incredibly stressful to come when it did, all through that Jimmy Savile affair, Whitney's puppies and her 4-day labour. You know, and then I absolutely dreaded Pussy having her puppies. I kept, you know, I was going to send her away to a friend of mine, because I thought I just cannot cope with her having puppies. But I'm well again, and of course I can cope with her having puppies. They're lovely. It's been no trouble at all, because I feel okay. As I said, physically I have quite a bit of sorting out to do, but I feel strong and I feel able to give again. Anyway, bye.